What is it like being a Jamaican living in New York? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, the founder of Jamaicans.com. And today in Jamaicans to the World, I talk to Kerri-Ann, Doc as I call her, and Irwine. I call him the mayor of the Jamaicans in New York. There's so much accolades for both of them. I can't. I just really can't. You know, OD, Irwin, Doc, who is just making waves in the education area. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Thank you.
Are we calling Mr. President?
The ambassador himself.
Oh man. Listen, we go way back. This I've been looking forward to this because you guys have so much knowledge you're gonna drop on Jamaicans living in New York. But first, let's start out with Doc. Which part of Jamaica are you from?
Savannah Lamar. There are 10 times fast. Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, right in the center, lot 43, Landala Housing Scheme, Savannah Lamar, Jamaica.
All right. And which school are you representing in
The
Savalanamar?
great, the great Manning School. Yes, the Great Manning School, founded in 1738.
All right. And is there a teacher there that you remember and you want to give a shout out to?
I didn't stay at Manning's long. I went to Manning's for 3 years. Let me see, Miss Evans. Miss Evans was my favorite math teacher. She loved me to death and she was wonderful. So Miss Evans, big up yourself, Miss Evans. She's gonna see it.
All right. I come to Irwin, the mayor. I have to catch myself. So, which part of Jamaica are you from and which school?
Well, it's understand this, and I usually start by saying this. It's the best parish in Jamaica. Noting that Jamaica does have 14 best parishes, but the best is St. Anne, the parish of Marcus Garvey, Bob Marley, to name a few. And of course, I hail from this district called Bambo. Lived on Shelley Road, Bambo. At one point, Bambo, my brethren and sister, had 3 bakeries. I near Mado bread to my fool.
What about Grotto?
I love that too, and duck bread.
Doc, you know what Grotto is?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I mean, no, duck bread. I mean, no, no,
Grotto,
please.
Grotto Klein, you know.
Yes, my grandmother used to send my grandfather to the square to get the bread, And by the time we reach home, the bread done, and so he used to call them bread engine.
So, which school are you bigging up representing?
York Castle High School in Brownstown, St. Anne. And
Okay.
one of the institutions that really created my foundation.
And is there a specific teacher you remember that really inspired you?
I like to start at the top because the man who got me into York Castle, because I wasn't a bright kid, was the Honorable Ambassador himself, Burchell Whiteman. And he still is alive today, not in the best of health. But he was the one who inspired me most in school.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, Doc, tell us your story. How did you get to New York? And was it a culture shock for you when you got to New York?
So I came to New York in 1993. God help me that I don't say my age in this interview. At 13 years old, and my parents were here ahead of us. The typical immigrant story, except that my father came first, not my mother, which is more typical than they usually come. And then they sent for my brother and me in 1993. But we had been coming here every summer and every Christmas to visit them because we, barrel children, stayed home. The biggest culture shock for me was the school, man. They get so much work. The homework was endless. It was like every night. My poor mother used to sit up with me every night in the 8th grade. Maggie L. Walker Junior School. I don't get so much homework. To this day, I hate homework. It was homework after, because in Jamaica, you get homework every 2 weeks. They don't see the teacher. Mr. Homework nearly killed me. It was homework oh my goodness. It was hours of that thing. I still don't like homework. And then the other culture shock was how the kids dress for school. So it's a reverse thing because in Jamaica they're like, oh, kids even wear pajamas to school. What? No, sir. In my school, the kids were dressed to the nines. Okay, guess this, guess that. And me now coming in my color shorts and different color shirt, thinking, oh, just put it. One day, my mother said to me, "You know, the kids actually match here. They match."
So you were roll calling.
Color.
Mr. Irwin, tell us about your journey to New York, and was it a culture shock landing in the United States?
I borrowed baby myself, but a reluctant migrant to the United States. I came here at the zenith of my transformation as it relates to student activity and all of that. And so United States for me at that side time in my life was like a what you could say, but what the hell am I doing here? And so I came right after high school. Reluctantly, as I said, my mom was here through the whole aspect of chain migration. You know, mothers usually come and work hard. You know, I remember my mother saying that, you know, you shovel the doo-doo today because at the end of the day, you'll own the doo-doo house. And that's just how it goes, you know. So no rain, no sleet, not going to stop you from going to work. So I had to get a job. I got a job, and my first culture shock, it was actually in the professional sphere, where I was calling my boss my first name. I couldn't get used to that for nothing. So I would say, like, for example, Xavier, Mr. Xavier, sir. And I say, you must be the Jamaican, right? Me, because as you know, anybody older than you are in a position of authority is Mr. Sir.
Yes.
You're not just Mr. You know, Mr. Sir. You know, so that was a hard transition there. And then, you know, so I recognize, won't say no, the looseness in how you are disciplined towards treating your elders, you know, people in authority. So that was a touchy one for me.
All right. So New York. Let's talk about New York and the Jamaican community in New York. So let me say this. You know, South Florida is Kingston 21 and New York is Kingston 22. So, Kerri-Ann, I want to start with you. Tell us about, you know, how you have seen the community, and when you moved there, what was the Jamaican community like? And, you know, I know Irwin can talk, as I said, I call him the mayor of the Jamaicans there. Him have a lot, but let's hear, you know, how you saw the Jamaican community there and when you first got to New York.
So the beauty of moving to New York when I did in 1993, I lived at 458 Eastern Parkway. You know what that means? That means when the parkway set up, you know, Labor Day, I just looked out the window or stepped outside, and it was vibrant and it was live. The other thing was that at school, you know, they had these bullying things happening and all these fights. I went to school right next to the Albany projects, and all these kids used to get their book bags stolen. And the first thing they said was, "This one is Jamaican." And I realized really fast there was code, and I didn't know I was a part of a code, but man, that code backed me up good and proper.
Wait. So the code means that if you're Jamaican,
don't touch it.
Crazy.
Don't mess with you.
I mean, I even remember who said it, right? Like, it was so, I was like, oh, what that means something. Yeah. That really meant that nobody was gonna bother me, right? Like I can't fight, is what they thought. Thank God nobody tested that. So, but I lived in the middle of Eastern Parkway, so I can remember when the Parkway was the Parkway. And I've watched that change so drastically over the years. And I don't speak for all New Yorkers, obviously, I'm just one person. But I remember how that enclave of people just right there was a whole Caribbean. It was a Caribbean area that I lived in Crown Heights, right at the corner of Eastern Parkway and Rogers. You walk down to National Avenue, you can buy June plum, you can buy mango, you can buy chippies. And you know, chippies hard to find. You know, you can, and all of that was right there. Now National Avenue, I can't even recognize that.
So you talk about change a little bit there, and is it the gentrification? Is that what's going on?
Well, absolutely. Okay.
All right, you know? hold that. We'll come back to that in a minute. I want to get Mr. Mayor's perspective here on, you know, coming there, the Jamaican community. I know you have been involved in much of the evolution there as one of the community leaders there. and talk to me and how when you got there, what the Jamaican community is like, and maybe even how you have seen it grown, maybe even politically and so on since you first moved to New York.
I want to make a correction there. I don't understand. Doc never catch up on this one. You talk about Florida being Kingston 21 and Kingston. No, there's no Kingston up here, so it's Jamaica. Understand? Jamaica. When I came here, I went on Jamaica Avenue. Queens to Brooklyn, from Queens all the way from Long Island to Brooklyn is all Jamaica. So you down there is Kingston. Up here says Jamaica. but seriously, coming into the United States at that time in 1978, I would say that I came into an environment where there was an expectation that as a Jamaican here, family coming in and family members and friends coming in, you know who to go to get a job. There was a situation of helping out each other from that perspective. So after 2 weeks, in my third week, I landed my first job at US Trust Company. Why? Because my mother knew a friend there who was a friend of her brother when they're in the police force, and he was now an executive in the bank, and he had a job waiting for me.
Wow.
And back then, because I came in 1970, 78, 79, and so that was a transition for me. I wasn't ready to school because I had to come and put some money on the table, because when I came here, I came from a country home where I live with my grandparents in a house. All right, we own room, and them have a cellar. All right, and you come up here, so now you're going to an apartment, and never worked too well for me, And it's not the apartment that you probably have like a Terra Nova Towers or something like that in Kingston. None of them kind of apartments there. You look through the window, you see the bus a pass, or some man a run down the road, a gun behind somebody else. And that was my first experience by the way, the first night. So that was what I came into. And to add to what Kerri-Ann says about Brooklyn, at the time when she was coming in, we were also in the embryonic stage of our activism on Eastern Parkway, because we're now getting ready to launch some whole situation of immigration benefits now and amnesty now and all of that. We were engaging, in fact, the organizers of the West Indian Day Carnival Association. That carnival representation of the parkway should be more than just a jump up, but a jump up for a cause. So we're clashing heads with them guys who just want to have a party, and check this out. Meanwhile, we were providing a stage for every politician in the world to claim themselves as Caribbean person that day. So we're creating a stage for everybody to act on and stay in the background and can't get on the stage. So we were knocking heads. Carlos Azam at the time, good man indeed, and all his friends, the persons around him, we were knocking heads with those persons because we had to get the message out. You can't have so much people out and they don't get a message. They don't leave it something apart from sore feet and broken pockets. So it was a very interesting time.
So New York, for each of you, because obviously it don't sound like you have lost any of the Jamaican-ness, the Jamaican accent itself.
No, sir.
You walk in. I'm just asking a question. You walk in and basically you can chat your Jamaican language like you were chatting your Jamaican language right back in Jamaica. Yes?
Yeah. I jump on that. I don't want to share something though. We were strategic. We know how to blend. We know how to adjust the situations, because we recognize that we have to communicate so the next guy understands. But in the same token, you are speaking and they understand who is speaking and where the vibe coming from. So you're not twanging or anything like that, because we do have some who do like that, right, Doc? But the point is that we maintained our identity. And a man said, boy, the Jamaican, because at that time too, I'll tell you this, and I say this without any apology. If there was anything that there's a fight required, I don't mean fit, but maybe that too. Any kind of fight, it's the Jamaicans I'm going to call them first. Any kind of fight, because they know we'll step up, and everybody else, kudos to my Trinidad and other Caribbean. They stay behind. Put the Jamaica up front.
don't put me in a major health situation up here.
You know that, man.
Me not in the viral lifestyle.
No, but the point is that it's a fact, you know, and it demonstrated to also in the political processes, where I think kudos have to go again to all Jamaicans, the Clarks, and those ahead of them who paved the way. And I say this again, every time we make a move, we're always inclusive. We embrace and encourage others to participate. And we see it today when our organizations honor other people and we invite other people in. It still continues to this day. And think because a legacy of that.
I will say this. I believe a lot of what happened in New York, because there are a lot of transplants from New York in the South Florida area.
Yeah, we created them.
And I do believe a lot of the framework, was developed in New York in terms of organization and so forth. But I'm going to jump to the doc, because I know you not mess with the language. You keep the language straight up. A translator involved in everything patois. So yes, your spin. You didn't have to change anything. Speak.
No, and you know what's interesting is that in Jamaica we couldn't talk patois, so we couldn't speak patois, right? Because at school you must speak proper English. At church, and those settings. Me love my patois. I love to code switch. And sometimes, I mean, I'm usually shocked when people don't know I'm Jamaican, because I lead with my Jamaicanness every single time. So I'm always shocked when people like, you're Jamaican. I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, like, how did you not figure that out from the minute you met me? So my patois is really, really important to me. I teach it to my kids. And of course, because I use Xavier, I will never stop saying it. I've been able to benefit financially from speaking and reading and writing patois, because I serve as a translator of the Jamaican language. We can't lose that.
Doc, I always use an example, because I remember years ago, this debate about language or not language, and somebody reached out and said we need a translator. It was a film, I believe. They wanted to. It
was the noisy film with Popcorn's. It was Popcorn's film. It wasn't just the film. It was Vice.
Right.
It was Vice Media. The first patois translation job that came to you was from Vice.
Yes. Well, actually, one came previously before that. Let me state that. But the most prominent one, the one before that, came a while back. But I said, if people are asking for something to be translated, it has to be a language.
That's right.
It's funny you guys mentioned that too, because back in the day, we had situations here in New York where you'd have many, another high propensity we have to engage yourselves with the criminal justice system on the other side of the law. So, these guys, they part of their strategy to speak patois to confuse the system. Right? We used to get called some Oregon and them states up far not there for translators. And we've had situations where Barbara Grudon at the time would have gone on to, to explain to them what this word means. So yeah, absolutely correct. And I really do admire Kerri-Ann for her continuity.
Oh yeah. And in fact,
last week I got one. Last week.
Wow.
Still?
Yep. Amazing. All right. I'm gonna switch up a little bit. Food. Are you lacking? And Kerri-Ann, you touched on it a little bit. Are you lacking any Jamaican food there? I mean, you have tons of patty shop, you have tons of anything lacking? Just a fresh mango, just a mango off the tree. That's it. Right?
Please, that we don't even notice it.
Hey, we're lacking, Kerri-Ann. Sweetwood. And then do a jerk.
Oh, the pimento wood. Okay.
Pimento wood and all that. But seriously though, we're in a conversation just recently about that, and the whole idea was that I venture to say, Xavier and Kerri-Ann, that I get more Jamaican food here in New York than when I go to Jamaica in the so-called restaurants, because you go to any Jamaican restaurant up here, you get your yam, banana, and cocoa and dumpling. It's standard. Yes. I go to Jamaican restaurant in Jamaica, you give me rice and then say, what you want for vegetable? You want macaroni? So I'm just saying, but I think though, when it comes down to the aroma and the taste, boy,
season.
For that.
Yeah,
I-
freshness.
So let me throw something out because it's a debate I've been having this week, and just how passionate we are about Jamaica. So a friend and I are debating about patties, right? And I said to her, I said, listen, she's like, tasty, mothers, whatever, and so forth. And I said, well, you'd be surprised. There's some patty shops abroad now that are on par with these other patty shops in Jamaica. And man, she came back at me and she's like, da, 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 da. And I said, you gotta, I had an experience in Jamaica the other day, and I was like, I went to two out of the big three patty shops, and some of the patties I've tasted here were on par with them. So I don't know if you agree. If I open a can of worms.
Listen, I don't eat patties to begin with, but
okay,
and I won't call. I have to be very careful here because two of the majors here are my sponsors. But,
well, I will call him.
Yeah, you can call him.
You don't have to call him. I said majors. I said the big three.
Yes. So, but seriously though, and I think we have a lot to be thankful for. We have here in New York an entity, Kerri-Ann Food Delight, which is the largest patty producing company in the world. You understand me? And just recently, I understand they broke ground again to expand. That is good for the brand. That is good for the imagery. That is good for brand Jamaica. So but you're absolutely correct. I hear people say though that they find better tasting patties in the so-called mom and pop setup where the man make the patty, in a less than large commercial environment. If you remember, there used to be some shops like that in Brooklyn. I don't know if it still exists, where the man they made the patty the night before, and the patty I eat a couple of hours right there on spot, as opposed to coming from a large center. But kudos though go out to the Golden Cross. I'm speaking from this side of the section of the country. Kudos go to the Golden Crosses, to the Tower Isle, and to Kerri-Ann Food Delights, and all those persons who make patties.
I agree with here. When I was in Jamaica, I'm from Savlamar. Hammond's patty.
Hammond, yes. And he had one in Brooklyn too, right?
Yes. Hammond's patties. And I mean, no party affiliation when we say Hammond, but Hammond's patty. And then there was a patty shop on, what is it, Louis Street named Ramsey Patty. I don't know about tasting because I've had good patties. When you go Ramsey Patty, the meat had drop out of the bottom of the bag and everything. And so in New York, that's the kind of flavor I'm going for. I'm Caribbean. Big up to all your sponsors, Irwin. But it's the Patmar Patty.
Yes.
Patmar
in Queens.
Motherfuckers going tomorrow. They're not sponsor me, so I'm not getting no money for that. Sorry, Xavier.
What have I started here? Because trust me, I went days back and forth text messaging my friend with a different discussion. So I went close that back slowly, and I'm going to talk a little bit about New York and cost of living. What is it like there? Starting with you, Doc.
New York is tough. New York is tough. I think I think if you're in a one income household, housing is tough in New York. Purchasing a home is tough. People are going through some really difficult times. And I think back to what Irwin said about when he just came and how it was more kinship. There were more kinship networks in place where people were helping each other more. You can live with auntie so and so, live with people, time gone, so those times are no longer. People don't want to come to them house without call first. And so New York has become quite difficult. It's kind of squeezing for people. Jamaicans here are known to do 2-3 jobs, right? Especially in the healthcare field. They might work healthcare and they might bob up on the weekend, and so people have to do a lot more now to make up for the income, and then they're building the house back home, and then they have the children back home. New York is
remittance and the money transfer.
The remittance, that one more in sponsors, Western, yeah. But yeah, the remittances, all of that, the taking care of, and New York is tough. Cost of living is very high, and if you're fortunate enough to live in a 2-income household that can sustain itself, then with one job, that's a blessing.
Okay, all right. Anything to add to it, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. So, because you know what's irony here? We hear that New York is losing people to the southern states, like where you are and elsewhere. But I don't know, Kerri. When I go Brooklyn, isn't it difficult to get into Brooklyn, Kerri? So I'm saying if we're losing population there, and forget the fact that I understand the migrants have nothing to do with this, and I hate that term, by the way. The folks coming in have nothing to do with that. But the point is that every nook and cranny is occupied. There are hardly green spaces. So if they've
Mm.
lost population, then boy, I don't know. Then we're getting them back in the bus loads, and it's not just a migrant situation. But the cost of living is very high. But people tell you this though, and you make it here, you go anywhere and you do greater. Because you see the house that you may have had there for all these years, sell that and come by your place there. And again, I don't know what Mr. DeSantis is doing down there. But anyway, you come down there, you can probably buy 2 houses, or you go land you buy 3 houses.
Well,
Right? So,
well,
it's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone.
yes, it is.
It's a
I would say
start,
this.
especially now for young people, to get that, to put that metal in their backbone, to realize that they have to work hard to get to where they want to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you say it because we're here saying, man, the cost to buy this house is way out there. And then I have my friends who come down here and they're like, oh,
Tell me
that's a
too.
good price. And
Tell
I'm
me
like,
too.
and I'm like, that's what how much money would I make up so? Because I'm like, this is,
Yeah, no, Xavier, I used to have to drive miles to find a house in Valley, $1 million. And I just ride my bicycle and go on the road and see a house. Them say $1 million for that. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
You know?
so
Yeah.
if someone was thinking of moving there, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, moving to New York, Jamaican, Caribbean person think, what's that one piece of advice you'd mention to them? Again, you talked about cost of living and so on. What's the advice you'd give?
I'll
Doc,
take
we'll
it.
start with you, Doc.
I'll take it. Find your people, right? Find us. And I know that, sometimes people can accommodate and do all sorts of something, but find your people, because I work in education, right? Everybody knows I work in higher ed. And I go and I find the Jamaican students, especially the international students. And I'm like, find your people on this campus, because they're people who understand you, they understand your context, they understand where you're coming from, they understand your language. Find your people, because if all won't help you, at least one will.
Awesome.
Absolutely true. And this is where, I say, especially young people coming in, the importance of what networking is all about. When they would have been in schools, and I would have been the beneficiary of the largest of alumni associations here, get to know who they are and where they are, because you're now becoming the new members. But in becoming the new members, those who are within the structure are there to help you along. So it's important that you have that link, and also to where church going people
That's right.
recognize that your church have legitimacy and membership here too. And an organizational structure, the pastor have a responsibility to hook you up with the next pastor also, because they want the church to grow bigger. So that is important. Organization, because our success in our communities today largely revolves around our organizational structure. Although we plentiful, but we little bit in our structures. But the point is, this is that recognize your alumni associations, your church, and any community-based groups. Those are don't just come here and call and expect people are gonna run. No, but now come give you something for nothing. Have to
Yeah.
work for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It would be remiss if I didn't say this. You two are very involved in your community. I want to start with Doc first. I mean, Doc and I go way, way, way back. Help organize the Anansi Festival with kids. If there's anything else you
Hold
want
on,
to
wait, stop
mention
it. When you say way back, what kind of way back you're talking about?
all right, and we go way, way, way back too. No, we
Okay.
go way, way, way back too. We go way, way, way back
Like
too.
where? Sam Lamar?
No,
No,
no. Xavier's a Kingston man. I don't think he's ever been to Sam.
Yeah,
I'd be a right Xavier.
so tell you a story. I
Yeah.
went to the grill and I needed some kite paper and I drive from the grill to Sanamar for kite paper.
My God. Did you get some?
Eh?
You get some?
Of course, we
Yeah,
get
man.
some.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, everything down there now.
Oh yes, everything is there. But
Yes.
Kerri-Ann, tell us, about some of the organizations that you are aware of that's near and dear to you that are in New York, and may I come to you in a minute because I have to give you some big ups of some of the things that you have established there.
I think you should start with Irwin because all I'm gonna name are a bunch of alumni associations. Like I know my father is like co-president of one, and of the Godfrey Stewart. Him and Irwin do also.
Call the name, man. Call the name.
The great Zacchaeus Benjamin Smith, who is I don't even know what his role is, but him big in the Godfrey Stewart Past Students Association. So my affiliation is always with the school part, more than anything else. And of course, we've done Anansi, but it's been a while, and we're trying to get that back on the ground.
We're getting it back.
My community work is mostly through my sorority, which is not Caribbean affiliated, but I wish more people of Caribbean descent would actually look at these organizations and see the work that we're doing and actually seek help from those organizations. I am a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Nassau Alumni Chapter in Long Island. Yes, I had to do that. But I wish more people would get connected to those organizations, despite the fact that they're not Caribbean based, because the work that we do throughout the community impacts everyone.
Awesome. Now, let me say this, Pen relays and the Jamaican students that come up for pen relays owe a debt to Mr. Mayor, to Irwin, for what he does. Okay, I know there is late nights where he's finding to put up someone somewhere, where he's finding food and him calling on the phone, begging for this and that. It's a passion. The defibrillators and so on, so involved. So I touch on a little bit because he may not want to toot his own horn, and I get that he's a humble man, but I have to give him his props. This man is behind a lot of these big initiatives in Jamaica. He doesn't have OD behind his name for nothing. Okay? He's
I know, Kerri, come talk about me overdrawn. I'm an old dog.
The overdrawn.
Come look for it.
Wait, Xavier, can I say something to that?
Yes, please.
That my husband and I are married today. My husband is in the United States today because of Irwine Clare.
Awesome.
Yes, the love part, but Irwine Clare.
I didn't tell them the name Smith, I think they're my brothers.
Irwine Clare filled out the first minute, I didn't know what to do with the application and what to do.
So
I went straight to Irwin.
You say, and I didn't even mention that part of it, the immigration services that is in the title you're seeing on the screen. This man has helped so many people. Okay, I can't say enough. If I need to find something in New York, one of the first people I call is this man. Okay. So, folks, if you're watching it and you're thinking of moving to New York, in the New York area, you have some people here that love the community there, does things in the community. Reach out. All right. Tell us the organizations, Irwin, that are near and dear to you, sir.
I thank you, and I look at Kerri, and I remember the time, and I'll start there because I get into this business because my mother, who was indeed a community activist in her own way, a person who was involved in early childhood education, etc., etc. She said to me that if I'm in a position to help someone, then it's my obligation. And believe it or not, what is true and dear to me is the whole aspect of what we do in linking and bringing families together. Migration, immigration is a hallmark within our existence here. And we got into this whole thing to empower Caribbean nationals through encouraging them to become citizens. And so making sure that they not only own the homes on the block, but they're in a position to control the block. That has been the mantra there. And you if you want to get me emotional sometimes, is when I go to places and I see families and I reach out to them and say, Mr. Clare, you see that man over there? And you met me see my daughter after 18 years.
Oh
And
my.
let me tell you, and Kerri-Ann, here comes the situation, Kerri-Ann. I, at one stage in my life, I went to so many church services that many times when I hear some of the fire and brimstone service, I meet them with a talk. You know, when I say that because I hear it, and then I had to go speak because I worked a lot with churches and the Seventh-day Adventist church. I remember one Pastor Kennedy took me up to Victory Lake or Camp Victory Lake, where we addressed 120 pastors. And at some point, they all have their tent situation during the summer. And 40 of them wanted me to come to them tent revival stuff. So you can imagine the impact that it had. And then my children also went to Seventh-day Adventist school. So there was a big bond there. And one of the things that stood out for me was that I was privileged to be part of encouraging the Seventh-day Adventists in the Northeastern section, Northeastern, right here in
Northeastern Conference, yes.
Yeah, to establish the first immigration forum within a church setup.
Wow.
For advocacy and to provide services. And that's how we did across the plethora of the churches. And we're doing this from Boston to Florida, and so we got to touch people's lives, and place them in a position where today they can control their destiny politically and so preserve their economics that they have garnered here. So that to me is like the piece that really touched me, because that was something my mother was involved in. So when I go up on the philanthropic side, of course, yeah, Team Jamaica Baker, yeah, that's just my baby. And we enter 30 years next year, and even as you come up for the Griffey Awards and all that, we'll be presenting a defibrillator machine to JC on behalf of the Griffey Awards.
Wow! Well, you just went into a part of it. I've been to New York 3 times. I was coming for a 4th time. But what would you say? And I've never seen Statue of Liberty. I've never seen Central Park. I've never seen the Empire State Building. All right, put that aside. Visiting New York, and I'm going to start with you, Doc. What would be the things that you'd say? And it doesn't have to be the big tourist stuff. You'd say, Xavier, if you come to New York, I'd recommend you do this. Or anybody coming to New York, I'd recommend. And it gives Mr. Mayor some time to think about it while you answer.
There are a couple of fun things. I mean, if you have kids, I can give you a litany of things that you should do with your kids. I just did one today. I took my kids to the Slow Mo Institute, and they had a ball. It's a slime museum. It's very sensory focused. There's a museum of ice cream down the street and lots of shopping in the Soho area. So I took them there today, and they got to eat some nice things in the area and so forth. But one Vanderbilt, it's the summit of the building. They're like glass floors and all these things that you can see across the city. I think it gives you a nice view of the whole city. The other thing though, and it's gonna sound cliche, you have got to go to Times Square. In his book, Invisible Man, Ralph Ellison says, Times Square is the loneliest place on earth. And you get to stand there, experience, it's where there's so many people, but you can actually, if you stand still enough in Times Square, you can understand why he considered it the loneliest place on earth. It's a place where you can get lost in your thoughts, lost in the light, lost in the spirit, lost in the sense. Times Square for me embodies New York. Okay. Right? It doesn't embody Jamaica, New York, but it's an embodiment of it's opulence and it's poverty. It's beauty and it's also stench. It's people and it's also loneliness. It's just it's a walk. It's like a contradiction, but it's just New York at its best, right? New York is a contradiction. Everybody in a style, but everybody broke.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
I was told once, and I did it too. If you drive from Washington Heights all the way down to Flatbush, you probably have gone to 100 countries. Wow. The neighborhoods you go through. And specifically now, what always intrigues me, Canal Street in Lower Manhattan On one side is Chinatown. On the Mulberry Street, on the other side is Little Italy.
Italy. I was there
So
today.
you talk about food and history, especially on the Italian side.
Yeah.
Because if it's one thing about food in Italian industry there is that it comes with a whole lot of, we call it in Jamaica, cascas, killing. So you know this about that's where Gotti used to sing and eat, you know, that's where that guy did take out 15 people. The restaurants are there. But the food is, you know, top shelf. As one person would say, you know, there's a restaurant here in Hillside Avenue called Genesis One, right? And people say, why Garfield from Genesis? And Garfield is a chef, you know, used to run clubs and do a lot of promotion. Why people go to Garfield and the food tastes so good? I said, Garfield, have to cook the food right, you know, because a bad man eat there. You know, when I say bad man, mean that then pass through and the food better good, you know. So I'm saying no, when you look at Little Italy, that's always a place I take my friends to because you have a choice. You have some a different type of food here. You go down here for your pastries, you go down for your coffee, or cappuccino, whatever. That place always evoke a lot of me because I worked downtown for a while. And then a stone's throw you right down in Metropolitan where all the people in there in jail. But I think it's important though, is that you take a ride through Brooklyn. You see? And with someone who can probably narrate and tell you what used to be and how it is now. Because Brooklyn, and you mentioned it early on, gentrification has pushed a lot of people to different sides and pushed a lot of people out. Because Eastern Parkway, which used to be considered to me Caribbean Parkway, I don't know if I can say that anymore. Because you know we have managed to remove wealth from our community in a rapid way because of the quick dollar. You know, and because a lot of people surrendered their brownstones. Let me say that. You know, and now when you look at it now, those are the $1 million homes you're looking at today.
$3 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, and then certain parts of Brooklyn now. Another place that is becoming what I might call the Grammy section for on our side in the Caribbean community. A couple weeks ago, they had the Caribbean Music Awards.
Yes.
First to be held at the King's Theatre. And a good look, a good start. Because when you can have Beres Hammond come up for an event where he's not performing to receive an award and it speaks volume. And I think that is, I see a kind of arts scenario coming up there where the red carpet that you see in LA is gonna come there. I think next year is gonna be big. So I'd put that on your calendar of things to do next year.
Well, it goes right into what I was gonna say. What would you consider the big either Jamaican or Caribbean event in the New York area? I mean, everyone has different, you may be the music person, Kerri, you may be the arts person or the food person or whatever. So I start with you, Doc. What would you say is the big Caribbean or Jamaican event for you in New York?
I'm gonna go unconventional, and it's something that I enjoyed the time that I attended. I haven't attended in a while, but the Barata Caribbean Festival. They also have what is the thing that they have?
Bankra,
oh my God,
Bankra
Festival. No, but there's in the winter time. Come now,
Grand
Market. Jesus.
Yeah, Grand Market.
Andrew, don't kill me, Andrew. Don't kill me because this is for you, Andrew.
Yeah.
But
Andrew Clark,
Andrew
giving you your flowers. We're giving you your flowers, Andrew.
I'm belated happy birthday.
Yes, his birthday was just the other day. But like they put some real work into preserving Jamaican music and
Caribbean.
Yeah. My mind people, right? But Caribbean, but preserving Caribbean heritage. It's not a lot of people still do them something there. And
yes.
Grand Market for me as a child was a big deal. And the fact that him have the Jankuno and him have all, he still does it, and he does so much with. And people always want to ask Andrew for do things for free. Not free, they work hard. But I would like to lift up the work that the Brata singers do with the Bankra festival and with the Grand Market that's coming up. And I wish I can go. It's always in the middle of Sabatum and I end up go. But I really enjoy their work. They do really great work in the community and really great work for our culture.
Yeah, I gotta say, I follow it. Andrew is a friend, and I gotta say the work he does, and he's very meticulous, very it's not, very authentic and so on. Hats off, hats off to him. Um, Irwin, talk to me. What do you see as the big for you, big Caribbean Jamaican event in New York?
And I have to touch base on the Andrew stuff. It's good that we spend a little time on that, because our culture today is under serious attack from erosion of support. All right. And Andrew is the ambassador out there, and there's not sufficient support for what he delivers. And but he continues, and we whatever we can do to channel funding there, we should. And I saw where he has even partnered with Assemblyman Brian Cunningham, a Jamaican, one of the few Jamaicans in party politics here, in presenting his float on the Parkway. So he's very creative from that perspective, and I have to give him kudos for that. When it comes down to big situations, I'll be honest with you, I kind of stay in my lane these days, and my lane these days is in the whole sports scenario. My cultural excitement now, I'm gonna go to Jamaica for that. But we recently had back in the day, we had what was called the Reebok Grand Prix, all right? Because there's a special place in the marketplace here for our athletes and how they perform, and it's always the USA versus Jamaica versus the USA. And I didn't pull Penn in this because Penn is in Philadelphia. But we recently had several of our ambassadors perform at the Icon Stadium. And I remember the fact that it was on those hallowed grounds that Usain Bolt set the first world record in 100 meters, or broke it, I should say. And I live to see those days, and I hope that they come back. And it was a kind of a good experience because it brought out persons in our community on a Saturday evening for a sporting event, which is few and far on the calendar these days. So there's no big ticket item for me because I've had enough of the drug festivals. I've had enough of the weekends. I've had enough of those situations, and I call them out. It's nothing against them. It's just me. I support them,
Right.
But I don't mind though a good sit down and we listen to an artist perform, and artists such as the AJ Browns of the world, when they come in and their performance, that means third world, or whether it be the artists that I'm not into the jump up stuff no more. I
get it. I get it.
And I'm not at the upper stage yet because I clearly understand what I'm saying about. But but the point here though is that what I'm also saying is that's what I mentioned about Andrew, that we're getting less and less of these presentations, less and less. And so it is a troubling situation, because it means that our culture somewhere there is being eroded, and we have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. One of the things we at Jamaicans.com try to do is preserve the culture in the best way we possibly can. But there's a discussion that needs to be had, I believe, in terms of how we incorporate it in terms of modern. And I know Andrew has. And I know, I recently saw a pantomime, an excellent job here in South Florida. Mrs. Darby, the late Easton Lee, and that group, Dr. Sue, and so many others that preserve the culture here. And you have different folks in Canada. You have folks that are preserving it, but as you said, it saddens me sometimes that you've seen it slowly going, and it's how to move what is old into something new and incorporate that. Maybe it's a wedding, and you say, the carrot, in the pantomime that was here, there was a carrying of the cake on the head. Maybe that's a tradition that somebody out there, you having a wedding, that's how they used to do it in Jamaica, and somebody carry the cake. So I totally understand.
And
Totally.
Xavier, one of the things that, and I see it in South Florida, and kudos to South Florida, I gather you guys do have a physical facility that one could say that this is where certain productions take place. That is not the case here in New York. And so that is one of the major things I believe that sets back even Andrew, because when he has to do these things, have to go out and hustle and cut deals with this. And sometimes in our community too, we have within our midst some of the best facilities. And some of the best facilities really rests in the church. And I call up my church people now. Really rests
in the Adventists then.
Because they do have the halls and the space and all the contraption when they do their presentation on Saturday and Sunday to preach God's word. But also God's word is also part of our culture. And I think the same space, I believe, should be accorded to the community for these kind of cultural presentations. I'm not against God here, so.
Right.
In fact, if we get more people coming in. And I know Andrew has challenges because yes, we have to go to the schools for the school, but that comes with a lot of other strings. But within our own situation where the pastor know about carry water upon your head and all them something and dinky mini and all something there. But how come, I don't feel that they are as passionate about it and sympathetic to the fact that they have a responsibility to preserve the culture, because within the culture is our religion.
Oh, and most churches per square mile, so we know that. And the most Adventist anywhere. Yes, Irwine, take time with you now.
No, yes. Like what church, man? Sunday.
All right, I'm not getting anybody in trouble. Let me So listen, guys, I mean, this is one of the conversations I was so much looking forward to. And we could go on and on and on. There's so much when we talk, we talk. That's one of the things I can say. We will go on and
let's them have a chat battle now. When we talk, we talk. You can go
JC old boy can't talk like that.
Yeah, man. When we talk, we talk.
But the patois.
Yeah, man. When we chat, we chat.
That's a good friend better than pocket money. Call me out. Call me out. Call me out.
From Clubhouse. We need to come back from
So
we have good times at Clubhouse on Sunday.
So I'm winding it down. Here's a scenario, and I know you're not lacking anything, but there are certain things that are different. And I'm going to start with you first, Doc. You land in Jamaica. You get out the airport. What is that first thing you're either doing, eating, or the place you're first going to? What would that be?
Just told this to a student 2 nights ago because she went to Jamaica. I said, make sure you stop at Border Jerk between Westmoreland and where the Hanover and St. James. Border Jerk, not fish.
Oh, me don't know that one.
Border Jerk.
Yeah,
it's at I believe it's at my husband's gonna kill me. The intersection of Hanover and St. James, between Westmoreland and St. James, right? There's like a connection there. And they have this place called Border Jerk, and they sell the best soup you'll ever taste. Aside from Clive soup on Thursday night in front of the Adventist church in Savlamar, Border Jerk has. And then on our way down to Sav, we take a detour on the left when we hit Ferris, and we go up to Border.
Mm-hmm.
That's the border of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. In Love My Belly, don't. And we get some fish. Ivy's no longer there. Ivy has immigrated. That was my favorite person at Border, but we get the fish and we back.
All right. Irwine.
But me scared fans, of course, especially when you realize what's going on in Jamaica now. And
all right.
But anyway, food is not my food is not really and truly. I like to land in Kingston because Montego is just too foreign for me. All right. So even when they no AC in the place and all that, when you land there, you see, it's touching the ground. It does a lot for my soul. My blood pressure goes down. I feel lighter. And so at this point, we get in our car and it's sent on me gone. Non-stop. I get on the highway. Thank God for the highway. And hit me and reach me out. There's always a nice container of what do I call it? Beverage, lemonade.
Okay.
Yeah, man. That ready,
Lemonade.
that ready for me. I'm a half-turned breadfruit with some salt fish, and it's well ready for me. Waiting. That's it. I
All
am
right.
home. But
I love that. I love that. I'm coming next time.
yeah,
Yeah,
man,
the
don't worry
current
about it.
breadfruit.
You're always welcome. Truly, though, I think though, and I've heard this many times, guys. People tell you that just landing.
Yes.
You know, there's a time, when Air Jamaica was around, that the travel experience started at the airport here in the States. Started at the airport, just know you're going to Air Jamaica. You custom, yes, you're custom, but it's Air Jamaica you're going on. But now is when you land and you come outside and the hot breeze hits you, you say, yes,
There.
all my arthritis gone.
I'm about to go book a ticket right now.
Well,
Cross this,
listen,
drop off.
well, listen, guys, I appreciate you giving us some insight into your story, some insight into the Jamaican and Caribbean community there. I know we don't have to be twanging because I typically would say, what's the greeting, the goodbye, and so on, but we know how it goes. So, thank you, folks. Be sure to check out, Doc, as I call her, Kerri-Ann, Irwine Clare. You can find him online. Irwine, you have a website for
Yeah, man. You can hit us up on my name. Just put my name in on any social media spot. Nobody have that name there except myself.
But Irwine, aren't you still raising funds for Team Jamaica Bickle?
Yes, we are. And we always urge persons to go to our website, teamjamaicabickle.org. Sorry. And it's an ongoing thing. And just to say this, to thank all those who have contributed to our defibrillator program. As you know, we're trying to equip as many schools as possible in Jamaica with defibrillators. We're taking down 35 next week, Wednesday. We will make a presentation at UTEC. And we're talking about a $75,000 impact. So, it's a good little presentation. Although it's hard for working in Jamaica when them something. But I tell you, we have to do something better, Doc. We have to do something better, Xavier, about this whole situation of helping Jamaica. It's hard to help Jamaica.
Yeah.
It's hard. People don't bother.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. But
what I recommend is for folks to, a lot of us try to start our own things sometimes, and I know even the people that have established relationships and organization like you do find it difficult. So I tell people all the time, try and work through, instead of go form your own thing. Try and work with organizations to make it better.
Capacity building. Very
yes.
important.
Yes. Well, folks, thank you again, and we're gonna throw in a little patwa, little more.
Wow!
You tried.
Show some love now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a video.